Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside. Hello, everybody. This is for you, especially if you may say with your mouth, I deserve a great partner. I'm worthy of a great relationship. But then all of your actions and all of your choices and all of your relationship choices say otherwise. So I'm just going to dive right into it today and talk to you about a couple of things, a couple of points, what really could be going on here. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is that we have to look at like what is it that's ultimately causing you to feel unworthy? So, I find when I work with women, most of my clients are successful. They're usually in a helping profession, they're in healthcare, they may be a physician, they may be a nurse, they may be consulting, helping clients get from point A to point B, helping in a corporate role. And on paper, they look like they have it all together. They're usually very educated. They have maybe multiple degrees. They've raised children, often as a solo parent. And behind closed doors, their love lives are embarrassing. They constantly wind up with emotionally unavailable men. They constantly wind up with partners who may develop an addiction during the relationship or the marriage. And they don't know how to overcome that pattern. And this pattern tends to follow them well into their 40s, their 50s, or their 60s, even in spite of doing a lot of talk therapy, reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of podcasts, really being into personal development. They logically know why. They have a logical connection that, okay, it's due to my childhood trauma. But if you constantly wind up in these relationships and you want to know how to actually feel this way, the first thing that you have to do is overcome your addiction to your unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, most of the women that I work with stay chronically busy for two reasons. They stay chronically busy because their nervous system, their emotional home, if you will, is set to feeling anxious. They constantly feel overwhelmed. They constantly feel like they're behind like three or four or five steps. They constantly feel like they're never going to get ahead. They're exhausted emotionally. They feel drained. They're usually in a demanding career. And the ultimate message that they tell themselves is that I'm a failure. I can't keep up with all of these things that are going on in my life. And then that feeling or that story, they internalize feeling like a failure, especially if they have failed relationships over and over again in their lives. When you internalize that feeling of a failure, what happens is that your body feels more anxious, and it's human behavior and human nature to run away from pain and seek pleasure. And so if you feel anxious and you feel like you're failing in some way, you are probably going to try harder, meaning work harder in your career, get another degree, get on more dating apps, do more self help work, do all of this stuff to try to fix yourself. And what I found happens is that this produces more anxiety and feeling overwhelmed, and your nervous system kind of gets like tapped out. And if you're operating from a state of chronic busyness because you believe deep down that you're not good enough or you're a failure or you have to work harder to get where you want to be or you have to work harder than other people to have a healthy relationship, you are operating in an energetic deficit, in an emotional deficit. And unfortunately, a lot of people exit a marriage or exit a relationship in an energetic deficit. And they try to work really, really hard to fill that deficit. But it's like the hamster on the wheel that cup never gets full because you're constantly living in a state of fight or flight, a state of overwhelm, a state of anxiety. And when it's like you get out of a toxic relationship and the chaos that was once in the relationship, you just kind of replace that chaos with staying busy in other areas of your life and feeling like you're never going to get ahead. So if you are a chronic busy person, this is often a coping skill that you learned long, long ago, maybe from early childhood conditioning, that you had to do things in order to win approval. I see this a lot with women who are achievers or are overachievers. They feel like they have to do a lot, go above and beyond, get the degree, get the job title, get the corner office, get the cars, get the house, get the zip code, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, inside, they never feel like they're enough. And it's no surprise then that they attract partners who reflect that back to them. So that's the first thing, your unhealthy coping. The other reason that a lot of people stay chronically busy is just it's an avoidance, it's an escape hatch. Especially if you're just newly single, you may still be obsessing or ruminating about your ex. You may still be in the mind space of, could I have done something differently? Is there something wrong with me? You may be internalizing that failure. And so, as I said before, people are wired, human behavior, it's a lovely thing, are wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So, you may be using your work or projects at home or lots of hobbies or numbing out with devices or shopping or sleeping with people or numbing out with wine or alcohol or even drugs to numb yourself. And when you're numbing yourself, whether it be through achieving things, overachieving, numbing out with your devices, and you then enter into dating with the intention of finding love, what you're really doing is wanting someone else, another person, to fill your cup, to give you love. And we've been fed, especially in modern day culture, especially around women, like the Prince Charming ideology. You're going to grow up and somewhere in your adult life, or maybe when you're a teenager, you're going to fall in love with this person and you're going to meet this person. This person is going to give you love and you're going to live happily ever after. So there's this connotation that we're in search of love, that we're seeking love from outside of ourselves, especially if you struggle in your love life and you constantly get the same pattern, different phase in your partners. You are, number one, probably operating in an energetic deficit or an emotional deficit. Number two, you probably have relational trauma that is a match for somebody else who's going to trigger that trauma so it can properly be healed. But when you date this way and you're looking for somebody to fill your cup and get that love, please hear me, you will always fail. It will be a repetitive, dysfunctional cycle. And I have seen this thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And all of the women that I've spoken with, all of the women that I've worked with, it just gets worse and worse and worse as the years go on. And if you get into your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s, and you're single and you just exited another toxic relationship, it's a little more daunting because your life is more than halfway over. It's a lot easier to be very jaded and very guarded and very shut off from the idea of ever feeling that. So, if you're wanting to learn how to feel worthy of love, the very first thing that you have to take an honest look at is your unhealthy coping skills that you are doing to keep yourself numb, to keep yourself in a state of anxiety, to keep yourself in a state of overwhelm. Because those feelings, those emotional homes are not conducive to attracting a healthy relationship. If you want to break a lifelong cycle and you want to attract a healthy partner, and it's probably going to look like and feel like nothing that you've ever experienced before. I just had a graduate client write in that she met somebody and she's in her late 40s or early 50s. And she said it's the most uncomfortable thing that she's ever experienced. Like, it's a healthy relationship, but it's really uncomfortable for her because it's outside of her template. It's outside of what she's normally done. So you have to look at, how am I keeping myself numb to feeling love? And then the second thing that you need to do is seek professional support. If you find that you are numb, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, You're constantly attracting the wrong people. Maybe you just exited another toxic relationship and you know that you can't, whatever it is that you're doing on your own. I mean, reading books and podcasts are definitely not bad. But when you have deep seated psychological trauma and intimacy fears, and you fear being vulnerable, and you've got a lot of trust issues, it is extremely important to work with a professional who can help you safely navigate those things, heal your trauma, let go of suppressed emotions, let go of these limiting beliefs that cause you to shut off parts of your life, cause you to shut off possibility. I talk to a lot of women that want love. They're 55, they're 60, they're 45. They've never had it before. They want it, but there's a huge fear that it's not possible for them. And if you have that fear, it's gonna take a lot more than reading a book to overcome that. It's gonna take using some evidence-based tools to emotionally regulate and rewire how you think and how you feel so that you're no longer living in a state of fight or flight. And it's going to take taking actions out of your comfort zone. Most of the times when people have a lot of heartache and toxic relationship patterns, they tend to become a control freak in their life afterwards because they felt so out of control and so injured and so hurt that they somehow have vowed to themselves to never let that happen again. And they may be very controlling at work. They may regulate their life to just work, a couple of hobbies, a couple of friends here and there, and then that's it. And or taking care of their kids. And I've talked to a lot of women who got out of a marriage, took 10 years off to raise her kids and just never dated. And then 10 years later, even after going to therapy, met somebody who was even more narcissistic and emotionally abusive than her ex husband 10 years ago. So, this pattern can follow you around even if you take long breaks. And I've seen it too many times to count. So the emphasis of working with a trained professional who is specialized and an expert in relational trauma is going to be incredibly beneficial to you because it doesn't just impact your love life. It impacts the relationship with yourself. And when you believe and truly feel, you can say all day long, I am worthy of a great relationship, but your body and your subconscious beliefs can be in complete opposition to that. And it doesn't matter what your mouth says, if emotionally you don't feel worthy of having it, you are going to constantly sabotage yourself. You're going to constantly ignore red flags with more of the wrong people, or you may push away somebody who's really great for you because it just feels too weird. So, working with somebody who's going to help you overcome your relational trauma using evidence based methods, help you emotionally regulate during the day, which means learning how to manage your emotions, how to manage your emotional reactions to things, how to communicate your boundaries more clearly, how to maintain your boundaries, how to use direct communication to work through conflict with people in your life. All of these things are most of the time way out of people's comfort zones. But if you do these things on a consistent basis, you suddenly feel worthy because you're doing things that are out of your comfort zone and you're widening what is called your window of tolerance. So if you've been a control freak and you've sworn off dating, that's not going to serve you because you are not putting yourself in an environment or in situations that are going to test you, that are going to give you practice, that are going to help you learn how to emotionally regulate in real life. Here at Break the Cycle, we give all of our clients a daily protocol of somatic work. Somatic therapy is evidence based for healing the way that you think and the way that you feel after relational trauma. So it's literally about rewiring when you have a bad relationship or even childhood trauma, your brain gets imprinted a certain way. The neurons and the neural mapping in your brain get laid down in a certain way. And when that foundation is set, what happens is that it causes you to emotionally react to things in a certain way. Your brain is wired, and then the neuropeptides, your nervous system is wired in conjunction with your brain. So these guys are operating in sync. There's a mind body connection here. But when you take the time every day to rewire that using somatic work, which looks like specific meditations, it looks like body based practices, befriending your body. I can't tell you how many women that we work with that feel extremely unattractive. They have a lot of body dysmorphia issues. They feel like nobody's going to find her attractive. When you heal this stuff, your emotional home goes out of anxiety and worry and fear. And what if I meet another narcissist? Or what if I die alone? And it slowly starts coming up to, I feel really good about my body. I feel really good about myself. I feel emotionally free. I'm no longer ruminating about my ex. I feel confident about the future. And then when you combine that with then taking steps, so you're learning how to emotionally regulate yourself, which is what part of what we teach here in Break the Cycle using somatic work, evidence based methods. And then you take action steps out of your comfort zone to widen your social window of tolerance, to widen your capacity to be vulnerable in a relationship setting, to widen your capacity to be vulnerable in dating, to widen your capacity to set boundaries and maintain those boundaries without feeling guilty or without feeling like you're failing a bunch of people. When you do that in tandem with emotionally regulating yourself, you break a habit, you break a pattern, you break a cycle. And what I have found in the women that I've worked with is that, a lot of people that enroll here, they want a great partner. They want to have a healthy relationship. But what I found is that when people actually do the work and they really dive deep, and we dive deep here, there's no skimming the surface. This is not like I'm going to learn about the narcissist program here. When they dive deep on what's really going on for them emotionally and all of the ways that they have blocked out love and all of the ways that they have limited themselves, and they start to take actions and they start to stretch themselves and challenge their comfort zones, it's no longer really about finding love. It's about feeling love every day. It's about feeling incredibly optimistic and in joy and gratitude, even if they have a lot of challenges. And some of the people that we work with here are going through nasty divorces, or they're, in the flux of moving. They had property with an ex and they're selling that. There's a lot of transition and it's challenging. But when your emotional home is set to love and gratitude, and when you are taking actions that stretch what you feel is possible for you, you become worthy of love. You feel worthy of love. Not only do you feel worthy of love, you radiating it. So this is how you go from something's wrong with me. I'm 55. I'm never going to meet a great partner. I've got somebody who's in her early 50s, just made a wonderful person. I got somebody else who is in her early 50s. She went from hating men, literally hating men when she enrolled, and now she's loving dating and looking at looking at that process as really healing for her. So if you're ready to go from your mouth moving and talking about, I feel worthy of love, but you don't feel it at all. And everything that you're doing in your life is not aligned with that. And you know that you have to do deeper work than what talk therapy has probably given you. It's probably given you a lot of insights, but moreover, you need a plan. You need a succinct plan that's going to give you action steps every week to follow. It's like a roadmap to get to the Wizard of Oz, if you will. Follow the yellow brick road. And you need accountability because if left up to yourself, you're going to bail on yourself and break promises to yourself. And you need someone in your corner to hold your feet to the fire and help you explore your resistance and your fears from a compassionate lens and help you move through those things quickly and efficiently, then this is what we help women do. So if you're single, if you're professional, if you're driven, if you're high achieving, if you're successful in your life, but in your love life, behind closed doors, you feel like an utter and complete failure. You feel like something's wrong with you, especially if you've done a whole lot of work on yourself and you keep making the same unhealthy choices in your love life. You logically know better, but it keeps happening and you don't know what you're doing wrong. And you need some significant guidance there to break that cycle. This is what we help with. And I invite you, if this is you, and if you listen to this and it resonated with you, and you know in your heart, you have to do something differently. And you don't want to get to the end of your life regretting the choices that you've made or your lack of action or your lack of decision making. Then I invite you to book a free breakthrough call. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk. We will have a very deep, honest, transparent conversation. I'm going to put a caveat here. Please don't book a call unless you are ready to go deep. I had somebody the other day was like, I don't know, I don't think I'm ready to go deep. There's no point in booking a call unless you're ready to dive deep on that call. I don't cut corners here. I help people get results when they've made it 55, 60 years of their life and they haven't had any results. So the conversation is going to be very transparent. It's going to be honest. And we're going to get to the heart of why you're stuck. And most importantly, we're going to get to the heart of what you really, really want. When we first work with people, their their perception of what they want is like really small. And so part of the call is about widening what's possible for you and helping you feel emotionally connected to the future and the dream that you want to walk into and that you want to create in the next 1 to 2 years. So if you're ready to have that call, if you will, I invite you to book a free breakthrough session. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk. We will have a very honest, potentially life changing conversation about how to heal your trauma and your blocks to love so that you can feel worthy every day and feel love every day, regardless if you have a partner or not. I hope you all have a wonderful day and I will talk to you very soon. Take care.